Let's stand and we'll say a word together. When we begin to consider the sacred here, the sacred now, the sacred present, we are close to the traditions of a lot of other peoples, like native peoples, who, whenever gathering like this, they would turn to the east and invite the presence of all creation to join them in the sacred circle. A place of new dawning, a place of new beginning, of clarity. And then they would turn to the south, the place of growing. Invite all of those energies of this present moment to this sacred circle. And to the west, the place of letting go, the place of emptying out. And to the north, in the tradition of the native people, the place of spirit. Holy One, as we come into this place, we open our hearts to the way all of your creation and every moment of our lives can speak of the wonder and joy of this miracle. So we pray. Amen.
Y'all want to take a moment and greet one another? Signs of peace. We'll just take care of that right now. Then grab a seat whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Don't you want someone to care for you? What about
We want to invite you to stand and sing with us now, this next song here. And we'll be taking our offering as well if you'd like to bring your gifts to the table.
Lyrics are there in your bulletin. Are y'all ready?
In the midst of the morning we open to all of the gifts of the day. We open our hearts to take it all in and give it all back in our way.
Come on.
Let us sing of the beauty around us. Let us sing of the beauty within. Oh, hear the earth tell that all shall be well. Anam Cara, soul friend.
Verse 2.
We're part of it all in our sorrow. We're part of it all in our bliss. We're part of the sun and part of the rain. We're all part of God's holy kiss. Let us sing of the beauty around us. Let us sing of the beauty within. Oh, hear the earth tell that all shall be well. Anam Cara, soul friend.
Thanks. Now, if you take a seat, it's running very smoothly, so this is awesome. Come on.
Good morning. How are y'all doing? We're going to read together from Deuteronomy. When Moses had finished speaking all these words to all Israel, he said to them, I am now 120 years old. I am no longer able to get about, and the Lord has told me, you shall not cross over this Jordan. The Lord your God will cross over before you. Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, be strong and bold, for you are the one who will go with this people into the land that the Lord has sworn to their ancestors to give them, and you will put them in possession of it. It is the Lord who goes before you. The Lord will be with you and will not fail you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. This next reading from John, I was going to portray through interpretive dance, but I couldn't find anyone to be Judas. So, I mean, it's just that, you know, without Judas, the role he played, the whole thing would have fallen apart. So I'm just saying. You'll see what I'm saying here. Jesus was troubled in spirit and declared, very truly I tell you, one of you will betray me. The disciples looked at one another, uncertain of whom he was speaking. One of his disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, was reclining next to him. Simon Peter therefore motioned to him to ask Jesus of whom he was speaking. So while reclining next to Jesus, he asked him, Lord, who is it? Jesus answered, it is the one to whom I give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish. So when he had dipped the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. After he received the piece of bread, Satan entered into him. Jesus said to him, do quickly what you are going to do. Now no one at the table knew why he said this to him. Some thought that because Judas had the common purse, Jesus was telling him, buy what we need for the festival, or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the piece of bread, he immediately went out, and it was night. When he had gone out, Jesus said, now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another.
You know, over the past 20 years, one of the people who I think of as one of the great poet-songwriters is Jackson Browne. And when I thought about this passage, this song of his was something that just came to mind. So we're going to do that for you. Keep a fire burning in your eyes. Pay attention to the open skies. You never know what will be coming down. I don't remember losing track of you. You were always dancing in and out of view. Must have thought you'd always be around. Always keeping things real by playing the clown. Now you're nowhere to be found. Don't know half what happens when people die. Can't seem to grasp it as hard as I try. It's like a song I can hear playing right in my ear, but I can't sing, I can't help listening. I can't help feeling stupid standing round, just crying as they ease you down. 'Cause I know that you'd rather we were dancing, dancing our sorrows away. Right on, dance, no matter what fate chooses to play. Just do the steps that you've been shown by everyone you've ever known, until the dance becomes your very own. No matter how close to yours other steps have grown, in the end there is one dance you do alone. Fire for the human race, and let your prayers go drifting into space. You never know what will be coming down. Perhaps a better world is drawing near, and just as easily it could all disappear. along with whatever meaning you might have found. Don't let the uncertainty turn you around. Go on and make a joyful sound. Into a dancer you have grown, from a seed somebody else has thrown. Go on ahead and throw some seeds of your own, somewhere between the time you arrive and the time you've grown. There'll be a reason you were alive that you'll never know. I had to take the chance of playing one more Jackson Browne song. You know. So the passages that we read today are interesting in a couple of ways, and they have some similarities. Maybe you've guessed it. Both of these passages are about someone who has led a group of people who is now going to say goodbye. Did you notice that? In the story of Moses, there's the story of him giving Joshua the reins as he is now going to take the Israelites into the promised land, to which he is forbidden to go. The story behind that is kind of long, and I won't go into it. He hit a rock a couple of times and thought he was real powerful. Supposedly, that may be a part of the reason why God doesn't allow him to enter the promised land with the rest of the people. I don't know about that. I think of Moses as a person who had gifts for the right time in the right place. And that maybe his gifts weren't the right ones for the next place. Jesus, in the other story, seems to kind of know what's coming. He's aware that there's a choice he made at some point to come into Jerusalem, to be in the face of the powers, and to be in that place is to know in his day, in his time, that his capacity for continuing was going to run into a wall at some point. And he sees Judas, and he gives Judas permission to do what he needs to do. And in that process, Jesus says a couple of things. He says a couple of things to the people there. I struggled with this for a moment because I thought, well, maybe what we should focus on is what he said. Because what he said is so beautiful. It's basically saying to those who have, in some ways, risked their lives with him, to walk an edge in a culture to which they were bringing a new paradigm. And his words are, if you love me, then you'll love each other. And that's how people will know that you knew me, or that you were my friends, is that you love each other. And so I thought about, like last week, maybe just have another big love fest down here. We could wash some more feet. Chuck could wave a towel. And then I thought, no, there's something else going on here that I would too easily want to deny. Because grief is something I have discovered in my life I am too good at avoiding. I'm too good at it. I've been good at it since I was a kid. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talks about the stages of grief. She's kind of that most of us have heard at some point. This idea that in all of our lives, we're going to go through moments of letting go, of emptying out, and there are stages both to our own passing and to the passing of others that seem to be fairly common. Maybe we don't go through them in the same kind of order. Maybe we approach them in different ways, but she talked about the first stage of grief is often denial. Denial is what I see in the disciples of Jesus as they hear him giving Judas the instructions, as they sit knowing surely at some level in their heart that this just can't go on. There's a denial often for me in just trying to avoid the endings. It's true, we don't like endings. There's even research that suggests we are much better at keeping up with the stuff we're getting than the stuff we're losing. Maybe that's an emotional thing because the stuff we're getting makes us feel good, and the stuff we're losing, we'd rather not have to feel. But it's a part of the journey. A friend of mine, a psychologist in Houston years ago, used to do a big seminar on being good at endings and beginnings. And he said, you might as well learn to get good at endings and beginnings because that's the majority of life. Gary David, my friend in California, who has been a mentor, this kind of great mind in the world of epistemics, suggests that stability is the most uncommon thing on the planet. Change is the constant. So we're always in this swim of change, and how do we embrace it? How do we walk into it and hold it and let it be? The second stage of grief that Kubler-Ross talks about is anger. And she says, often when we go through loss or when we face our own loss, we want to rage at it. We want to rage at, why me? Why this? Why now? Have you ever been there? Often we want to look for someone to blame. The surgeon, the boss, whoever, as a way to somehow push back the sadder feelings that we would otherwise have to embrace. It feels much stronger and much easier to find someone to blame and an enemy to point to. Grief means we have to go through all of that. Then she talks about a stage called bargaining. Let's see if we can make a deal. Let me see if I can make a deal with life that I don't have to go through a loss. I've spent plenty of years counseling couples through divorces to know how often this becomes a big, prolonged stage in a process of change for a couple or for an individual, where there's a hope that somehow if I could just change this or change that, somehow you would still want me, or that things might be okay. Unfortunately, they more often than not end up discovering that the emotional distance that's grown between them is an emotional divorce that had long ago happened for one of them. It just hasn't happened yet for this one. The journey of life involves many, many times of our embracing what is coming in the door, a calling, a new beginning, a new relationship, and then a new year. But there is nothing about life that isn't temporary. It seems woven into the fabric of the experience. Isn't it a better choice to somehow embrace that and maybe even see it as beautiful? Maybe even see it as a part of this sacred gift of life that would not be the same were it always permanent and unchanging. The gift of a person in our lives is a gift for a season. To be able to own that is to be able to value it in a way that constancy somehow doesn't allow. And valuing things opens us up to the possibility of seeing our lives with gratitude rather than simple expectation and entitlement. And what is life not lived with gratitude? Meister Eckhart once said, if the only prayer you ever pray is thank you, that's enough. Kubler-Ross then said, there's another stage. She called it depression. There is something of a falling into that. At some point in our lives, as we do those moments of letting go, we have to embrace the rivers of energy that have flown in one direction for long periods of our lives begin to retract. And we can often find ourselves in kind of a stagnant place. Where will my energies go now? And in that stagnancy, often people get stuck. That stagnation can breed all kinds of attempts to avoid the feelings, and we go back and up and down the ladder of all of these different kinds of ways of dealing with grief, the other stages, until eventually we come to that final stage of acceptance. Acceptance is not just acknowledgement, Kubler-Ross says. It's about a full experience of the loss and an openness to its meaning. I wonder what it would mean for the disciples if they might have been able to, at those moments where Jesus was about to depart, to become a little bit more awake to this process going on inside themselves. Maybe Peter wouldn't have struck out with his sword to cut off the ears of the guards who came to arrest Jesus. Maybe they would have found words to say, that they would have felt a greater sense of connection through the whole thing. It's hard to find words in the face of grief. I know it all too well. This is a silver dollar. My grandfather gave it to me before he died. It's from 1921. He called me, and I came to visit him on his porch at his house. My grandmother sat across from us. I didn't know for sure he was going to die. I was about to leave for college, and I knew he had been ill. He had cancer. And my brother and I had gone to give blood, to have a blood bank for him for a surgery that he was going to have. And we sat on the porch and visited for a few minutes about me going to college. And then he said to me, I've got something I want you to have. And he gave me the silver dollar. And then he gave me his rain suit.
Do you still have it?
No. Got this. The rain suit would have helped me today more than this. But it was kind of a weird green, very old plastic rain suit that he would wear when he would play golf. And I had no real use for the rain suit. As a college student, 1976, didn't fit with my wardrobe, which would soon be a leisure suit. So, I don't still have the raincoat. But what he said to me when he handed me the raincoat, and he teared up, he says, you know I must love somebody an awful lot to give him this. And I didn't cry. And my grandmother immediately stopped him from crying. Our family wasn't all that good with grief. But my grandfather, who had a lot of Cherokee, he was a great-grandson of a Cherokee chief, said, "I love you." The last time I saw him was in the hospital. He was about to go in for surgery. I didn't get to see him after surgery because I had to go back to school. But I wanted to see him before I left. And my grandfather, who was a stately, wise gentleman from Mississippi, had taken out his teeth and was making faces at me. I think because he wanted me to know, again, I love you. I didn't have the words to say to him. I didn't know what to say. I filled books, pages of what I needed to say to him later. But what it makes me remember, and as I read these passages, what I think of, is that our experience is always now. It's always right here. And it's always changing. It's always on its way somewhere else. What is it that you would say if you were leaving? If you were passing on? What would you pass on? If you had one sentence, like Jesus did in this passage, to say, what would you want others to carry on from your life? Maybe Eric Fromm is right when he says we can't fully live until we've fully dealt with our own temporality, our own temporariness, our own deaths. We are only here for a while. Where is it that we are in tune with what it means to pass on something? I have this silver dollar, which I could give away right now because it's just a silver dollar. What I value about it is it reminds me of a moment where my grandfather found the words. What are your words? What are our words? I want to invite you to just maybe meditate on that for a moment and consider that idea. And just as a moment of prayer, allow that question. If you were in the last days of your journey, what would you want to say to the people around you? And most of all, what would you want to say about the truth that you've learned that you would want someone to carry on? Seems we only have a couple of choices here. We don't get to change the fact that life is all full of temporary. We don't have a choice not to have moments of grief. But maybe even in the midst of that, we can tune into the gift. It's such a wondrous thing to have a life. maybe the temporary nature of everything reminds us of its preciousness. If you could say one sentence that would carry on forever in the hearts of other people, what would that one sentence be?
Were born before the winds are so younger than the sun. Yeah, the body boat was one as we sailed into the mystery. Hark now, hear the sailors cry. Smell the sea, the sky, and let your soul and spirit fly into the mystic. When that fog on moves, I will be coming home. When that fog on blows, I want to hear it. I don't have to fear it at all. 'Cause it's so. Just like way back in the days of old. And together we will flow into the mystic. That fog on blues, when that fog on whistle blows, I got to hear it. I don't have to hear it at all. You're just a soul, just like way back in the days of old. Together we will flow into the mystic.
So with Moses, I don't see him as ending that journey with a great sense of terrible loss. You know, he was aged. He was getting old. I think he was like 120 years old or something. You know, and you know, there's one of the shortest passages in the Bible is what is often quoted by senior ministers as they leave churches. Moses leaned on his staff and died. Wah, wah, wah. So, yeah. But somehow I kind of imagine Moses not being feeling so lost in it all, somehow seeing the gift of all the journey that had gone before. Do you know the musical A Chorus Line? It's one of the long playing. There's a scene in that musical where one of the dancers falls and is injured, and there's a voice off stage that says, "What if you can never dance again?" And the music begins to this song, "Kiss the Day Goodbye." It's such a beautiful song. I somehow imagine Moses somehow leaning on his staff, looking out across the river as the Israelite people are going off, you know, into the promised land. And I imagining him saying, "Kiss the day goodbye. We did what we had to do. We saw it through. I'll never forget and won't regret what we did for love."
Kiss the day goodbye, the sweetness and the sorrow.
Good timing for the bells.
Wish me luck the same to you, but I can't regret what I did for love. What I did for love. Look, my eyes are dry. The gift was ours to borrow. It's as if we always knew. And I won't forget what I did for love, what I did for love. Love is never gone as we travel on. Love's what we remember. Feel free to join me if you know this song. Kiss the day goodbye and point me toward tomorrow. We did what we had to do. Won't forget, can't regret what I did for love. What I did for love. What I did for
Beautiful. Hey, Laurie, play a little bit more of that. I want to invite you, is there, when you thought about that one thing, that one sentence, is there anybody who would share their one sentence with us? Anybody? Yeah. Okay.
All you need is love.
Oops. Wait a minute. Let's try that again. Test 1, 2. There. Now try it.
All you need is love.
Yeah.
I hope you dance.
Hope you dance.
Keep me in your heart for a while, Warren Zevon.
Anybody else?
Let it go, my love, my truest. Let it sail on silver wing.
Carrie Newcomer's song. Yeah.
I would say this to Amanda. You are my sweetie pie.
She is a sweetie pie. All right, we haven't heard from this side. Anybody? Anybody? Yeah.
Be kind to one another.
Yeah. Anybody else? So let's stand and we'll say a prayer together. Maybe take each other's hands. Holy One, that we could be good at beginnings and endings. That we might open ourselves up to wisdom when it comes, even in the midst of grief, even in the midst of change, which is life, not what we planned. That we could somehow always find our way to love, and by that somehow show that we're your children. So we pray. Amen.
Forgot to announce the 3:15.
Okay, you want to do it? Hey, we have a little announcement that we didn't do any announcements today, so Ann has an announcement.
Just remember, if you would like to come this afternoon at 3:15 and be part of the conversation about 11:11 going forward, Dr. Brewster and other staff members will be here to hear our ideas, our input, and our gratitude, really. So everybody who can be here, I believe it's in this room, at 3:15. Charles' birthday is tomorrow.
Calm down, calm down. Great. Have a great week.